Good morning and welcome along to a brand new week here on Ireland M.
It is. It's Monday the 30th of January. We've got a lot on the way from you between now and 10 a.m.
We sure have a busy old show. It was a busy old weekend from Donegal's narrow victory over Kerry to Djokovic's win down under 22 slams. Incredible. We're going to be running through this weekend's biggest sporting moments.
As you were going through all that, I was like, how many days are in January? No, there's one more left.
There is, 31st tomorrow.
We're almost there. Also this hour, we're going to be discussing something that is a huge topic. We've spoken about this before. It's severe nausea and vomiting, or hyperemesis, in pregnancy, and why so many people are calling for access to medication to relieve the symptoms.
Nice,
access that people can actually afford.
And from the Irish Mammy sketches to performing at some of the biggest venues in Ireland, we're going to be chatting to the hilarious comedian Enya Martin.
Alan, what else have we got this morning?
Well, Muireann, we'll be discussing the Love Island drama, and there was some drama last night, I tell you. Plus, we have a Chinese takeaway classic in the kitchen, and in fashion, we've got some stylish looks to see you through the upcoming bank holiday weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend!
Oh, man, how exciting.
Coming up. Now, Deric is out and about as usual this morning. Where are you, Deric?
Yes, Al, we are live here in Ringsend in Dublin this morning. It's a dry and settled start. Nice bright spells out there today, but a couple of hit-and-miss showers in from the west later on. But guys, we're here in Ringsend in Dublin to kickstart the week because we're off to put a little bit of a spring in your step. We're heading off to a roller disco, so basically, me on wheels. What could go wrong? This job is becoming a health hazard.
Last time you did this, Deric, was it down by the water and you nearly rolled into the Liffey?
I am very excited about this.
There's always something up anyway.
I was watching loads of videos about this last night. I don't know, I ended up going on a spiral, so I'm expecting loads of tricks from him a little bit later on.
I'd say some chance of that. OK, it is time to get a first news of the morning. Over to you, Aisling Roche.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. IBEC says housing challenges are now harming Ireland's attractiveness as a place to live. In a report published today, IBEC is calling on government to urgently deliver policies to address the crisis as part of its ongoing Better Lives, Better Business campaign.
Businesses are running into difficulties finding key members of staff as housing challenges are harming Ireland's attractiveness as a place to live. That's according to Ireland's largest lobby and business representative group, which says the crisis is posing the greatest threat to competitiveness. In a major new housing report out today, IBEC outlined a number of key recommendations and is urging government to deliver ambitious policies, including cutting the cost of new homes and speeding up the delivery of housing. It says in a recent survey, over 70% of companies identified the availability of housing for staff as a challenge to their business operations this year. IBEC Director of Lobbying and Influence, Fergal O'Brien, says the lack of new homes is now becoming the critical barrier to attracting and retaining talented workers, without whom business investment and expansions are not possible. Anne O'Donnell, Virgin Media News.
The Transport Minister says he was shocked after reports that a group of homeless men were attacked at a makeshift camp in North Dublin. It follows reports that a number of men with dogs, sticks and a baseball bat turned up at the camp at the weekend. It's understood 8 men had been living there for a number of months. Gardaí say they responded quickly and engaged with those present at the incident in Ashtown.
And I don't think that represents anything in this country that actually we, the people, want to see happening. I think the vast majority of the Irish people would be absolutely shocked and appalled at that sort of behaviour.
A man in his 40s has been seriously injured in a stabbing in Dublin last evening. At around 8:15, Gardaí were called to Shanless Way in Santry after reports of an assault. The man was treated near the scene and taken to the Mater Hospital. His injuries are understood to be serious but not life-threatening. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to come forward. A wave of protest took place across the US over the weekend, sparked by the death of Tyree Nichols. Graphic footage of the 29-year-old being beaten by a special police unit was released on Friday, followed by the decision to disband the whole unit.
They were tasked with tackling violent crime in the most troubled areas of Memphis. But the Scorpion police unit was brought into the spotlight by the brutality of its own. The Memphis Police Department officially disbanded the special unit after its members were seen viciously beating 29-year-old Tyree Nichols, who later died from his injuries. 5 officers were charged with murder, but the whole unit and its tactics were called into question. Crowds protesting in Tyree's hometown of Memphis cheered at the news of the Scorpion unit being dissolved, but the fight for change is far from over. Tanya Royd, Virgin Media News.
A severe weather alert remains in place in Auckland and New Zealand. At least 4 people have died and a state of emergency order is in effect. Hundreds of residents are seeking shelter in evacuation centres after record rainfall led to severe flooding. The country's newly appointed Prime Minister Chris Hipkins has described it as a very significant disaster. The severe weather warnings will remain in place until tomorrow at least.
This morning, Met Service has issued an updated heavy rain warning, extending that orange warning for Auckland and Great Barrier Island from the 6 a.m. through till 9 a.m. We do have more bad weather potentially coming in on Wednesday and Tuesday, Wednesday, and we'll be watching that really closely and providing information to our communities on what to expect with that.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you, Ger, and a very good morning to you at home, or if you're indeed streaming online on the player. We're coming to you live here from Ringsend in Dublin this morning. We're off to roller disco later on this Monday, so lots of skating fun coming your way right across the morning. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather together. We're on to the second last day of January now with Rona McIntyre with us here on cameras. And I have to say it's a mainly dry and settled start as we break our way into a brand new week. Now we are seeing some hit and miss passing showers through Tyrone into Fermanagh, up around Rafo there in Donegal and into Buncrana through the Inishowen Peninsula, but elsewhere a pretty decent one out there now for the 30th of the month in those moderate westerly winds, a little bit fresher through parts of the north. Now, right across today, in fact, we will see some bright spells for a time, but that cloud will build through parts of the west, bringing with it some light rain and drizzle as we edge away across today. 7 to 10 in terms of those temperatures as those winds veer to the southwest. Now, right across into tonight then, that rain and drizzle will sink in a southeasterly direction, easing back to scattered showers with clear spells pulling in from the northwest later on tonight as we work our way then into tomorrow morning. But certainly those winds picking up pace will be strong and gusty at times, west veering southwest with overnight lows back to about 4 to 7 degrees. So that's how we're shaping up here in a brisk Ringsend at the moment. We'll catch you back live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline: refugee supports may be time limited. Supports and accommodation for refugees seeking shelter in Ireland could be time limited under proposals due to be considered by the government.
44,000 health workers' pensions hit by outdated HSE systems. Thousands of retired nurses, social workers and medical scientists are missing out on rises in their payments due to the HSE's inability to update its pay and pension systems. That's the front page of the Irish Independent.
The Examiner leads with funerals delayed as death rate rises. A spike in the number of deaths in recent weeks has disrupted funeral arrangements and put mortuaries under unprecedented stress.
Housing crisis, a critical block to growth. A damning report claims the housing shortage is threatening the economy and harming the country's attractiveness as a place to live. That's the top story on the Daily Mail.
The Mirror goes with Irish soldier on Russian kill list. An Irishman fighting the Russians in Ukraine has been warned he is on a Kremlin kill list with a $50,000 bounty on his head.
The Sun leads with pint of the black stiff. Publicans have blasted Diageo for forcing them to hike the price of a pint of Guinness.
The Star leads with Pal nicks €100,000 off Gilligan. Mobster John Gilligan has been fleeced of more than €100,000 by one of his closest associates, the paper says.
And finally, the Herald goes with Snoop Dogg. Guarded dogs will get body cams in a new initiative that is expected to prove particularly useful in hostage-taking, stakeouts and other situations. There you have it.
It's a serious story, but then you just want to stick a camera on a dog and see where they go, really, don't you?
And joining us now to talk through this morning's headlines is a reporter with Bauer Media, Mairead Cleary. Good morning, Shamhrain. We're going to start with the proposal to discuss time limits on supporting refugees and people in the country. And this is in line with what is actually happening in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, so the Department of Integration have done a kind of comparison study with other European countries and seeing how their dealing with the influx of refugees. One of the things that other European countries are doing that we're not is putting time supports on. So right now, our supports are indefinite.
Yeah.
There's no deadline on them. And another thing is the type of accommodation we're offering. So we're offering hotel accommodation. That's not the case in other parts of Europe. So I suppose...
It's mainly private accommodation in other parts of Europe.
Yeah. So basically, they're looking at considering moving into that more European norm. Other countries have...
But what does that mean? Like, honestly, so we're sitting there going, we have, of our homeless figures, highest they've ever been, over 11,000 people. There was a tent city, as they're calling it, along the Tolka River in Dublin, which people went and broke up the other day. People have been living there since last summer. So if we're going to go to a more European model, it sounds like it's really easy. Surely it's not, that we've got no place to put people.
Exactly.
Or do we? And they're just dragging the heels.
Well, that's one thing they're working on, is actually creating, I think it's 4 to 6 temporary accommodation centres, and that's going to be out of buildings that are owned by different governmental departments. So they're trying to find, I suppose, more capacity within the system. They're also trying to move people out who are international protection applicants, to move them out of direct provision centres and into rented accommodation. But like you say, the cost of rent, that could only add to the homeless crisis. So it's really, I mean, it's very complicated. And
when you're talking about the homeless crisis, it was saying that 40% of the homeless in this country are not Irish.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose when you think about it, you're moving to a new country, the reasons for you moving, a lot of these people, if we're saying international protection, or if they're refugees, or if they're just looking for a better life, that means they don't have that kitty of money. So you are more vulnerable to fall into homelessness. And that's where the question of, are time-limited supports, are they advantageous? Are they, you know, are they fair? So, I mean, it's not a question for me to answer, but it's definitely one that the government will have to consider.
And there's no signal here on what the time limit might be and what they're going to do. It's like, you've been here 12 months, time now to go. Thanks very much.
Oh, what's next?
God.
You know.
Yeah.
And as it is, we already know that, like, I'm not tiring everyone, but there are issues with direct provision and how that is supplied, and the standard of care within direct provision.
Absolutely.
So it's like, what's happening, and what are these? This is human beings.
Absolutely. And like we saw stories last week in City West and in other accommodation centres where there has been sparks of tension. You know, there's people from different countries away from home, living on top of each other with nothing to do, you know.
But also the fact that there was like 3 showers.
Yes.
And almost 1,000. Like, what are you meant to? Of course, that's going to happen. There's not enough. Anyway, listen, that's going to be rumbling on. We've been talking about it for almost a year. We are coming up on the year anniversary pretty soon of the war in Ukraine. Now, another story that's really, because it leads with something that I'm like, sorry, because it's about putting cameras on Garda dogs.
Yeah.
Interesting way to start the story, because they are going to put body cams on actual guards.
That's it.
But it's the dogs that get the headline.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit novel. I think we all kind of prefer dogs to humans sometimes. But yeah, so the idea is basically that we'll have spy collars on our Garda dogs, and they'll be able to go into scenes, gather evidence, and people don't expect, you know, a canine to have a little camera on him. So
yeah, but it's like they were saying, like they'd be able to gather information because people might notice. Hello? Have you seen the picture? What it looks like? The dog with this thing, mad hand camera on its head.
They never noticed Scooby-Doo. It's totally fine. Yeah. I mean, look at all the mysteries he solved. So they're going, but guards are getting body, because we've got an issue with guards having body cams. What's going on there? It's for the safety of guards. It's for the safety of the community. Is it happening?
Yeah, so it's going to be before the Dáil this week, and that legislation will mean that guards will have to have their camera clearly showing, and it'll be flashing when it's recording. Yeah. So people will know when they're being recorded.
And do they have to say I'm recording?
I don't think so. I believe
just it needs to be flashing. Yeah,
that'll draw enough attention to it. But they say in this article that there's special allowances being made to dogs so that, you know, they won't have to be as obvious. They can even go undercover, take off their Garda vest and send them in. You know, who knows? Maybe this could crack one of the big cases.
This is in the story that the dogs can go undercover. They're allowed to take their tops off.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you know what I found fascinating? The bill will also allow for Garda planes and helicopters. Do Gardas have planes?
It's newly purchased. It's our first plane.
Do we get a plane? What do they need a plane for?
For organised crime, I'd say it will be to look at, we'll say, drug shipments coming in from South America.
So these are going to have these devices on them as well, like to look at people.
All surveillance.
All surveillance.
Yeah. From dogs to planes.
I didn't know the guards had a plane. There you go.
There you go, brand new.
I knew we had a helicopter. All right.
That's what's going on. So if you've got any issues or thoughts on Garda body cams, because of course we've seen obviously a horrendous death in the US on the body cams. There's no footage from those body cams that we've seen. 0896 111 111. And we're going to move on to Marie Kondo. Marie Kondo, who always said, if it doesn't spark joy, throw it out. So everyone threw everything into landfill. Fantastic for the environment. What's going on with her?
Well, basically, she's had her third child now, and she sat down for an interview, and after settling, was it 6 million copies, a Netflix series, everything about this clean and tidier way of life, she said it's not for her. She's kind of packing it in a little bit for now. She said she wants to focus on her family and that she's 3 kids now and that mess is just part of her life, which is hilarious because for her first child, her and her husband had a conversation about how many drawers they can allocate for the child. And now on her third child, she's just like, there's no point in trying to manage these kids.
She literally said,
let them run riot.
Yeah, I've kind of given up.
I've kind of given up here.
I've kind of given up.
I'll come back to you in a few years when they're able to pick up after themselves, but she's just accepting the mess, which, I mean, any mum, I think, would.
Because one, you can probably go, OK, if your parents and you're tag teaming,
yes,
you might try. I still think with one, the parents be like, I can't keep this house clean.
Yeah.
I mean, kids just have crap everywhere.
Everywhere. I kind of like, Marie Kondo is finally showing she is a human.
Yes.
Before this, she was a cleaning machine, whereas now she's like, listen, kids bring dirt.
It was always the throwing out stuff, and I'm like, all my clothes from the 90s are now back. And I'm like, so what, people are just buying them again?
Yeah.
Keep your stuff, lads. If you've got the space, keep your stuff.
I love what she said. She said, I cannot tidy every day, and that is okay.
That is
okay. I cannot tidy every day, and that is okay.
Tommy is like going mad over there. Are you all right, Tommy?
You have two children, so with 3. So we'd love to hear from you at home. Could you keep the place tidy with 3 children at home?
Finally, she's had a bit of cop on.
Finally, she's had a bit of cop on.
3 kids, I can't deal with this. The toys are everywhere.
Don't even bother.
Is your house like, can you keep your house tidy with 3 children or even less than 3 children? Let us know. We'd love to hear it. Show us some pictures.
Yes.
I'll show some pictures of what your untidiest room. Yeah, the destruction.
What
your children do in your house.
Written on the wall, the dinner everywhere. If you've got a fantastic picture, we would love to see it. And we'll get Tommy to show you some of the pictures that he shows us in the morning of what happens in his house. It's 089 611 111.
Depends what pictures.
Depends what pictures. I know, okay. Some of them aren't. Some of them aren't.
Send them in. We'd love to see them.
Marie Curie, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. Cheers. Now, on the way, we're going to be talking about hyperemesis during pregnancy and the current issue around medication to treat it. Welcome back. Now, after being diagnosed with hyperemesis, severe vomiting and frequent trips to the hospital, that became the norm for pregnant mother Sabrina Hill, and that's for most of her pregnancy.
So join us now to discuss this condition further is Sabrina Hill via Skype from her home in Cork, and Dr. Aoife in studio with us as well. Sabrina, we'll come to you in just one moment. I think, Aoife, for people who don't know about hyperemesis or haven't heard of it, can you just give us a brief description of what it is?
So I suppose we think about nausea and vomiting, and 94% of women at some stage we expect to be nauseous. The problem when we think about hyperemesis is that it's a spectrum condition. So at one end we have the normal, routine, regular nausea that waxes and wanes and we can carry about our daily lives. Then kind of in the middle, we've 30 to 40% of women that have a more clinically significant condition where you cannot eat, you cannot drink, you find it difficult to go to work, difficult to look after your children. And then on the extreme end, you have hyperemesis gravidarum, which affects about 1 to 2, but it's a spectrum condition. It affects about 1 to 2% of women, and it's extremely debilitating. It's isolating. They cannot keep food down. They cannot stay hydrated, never mind looking after their other children, never mind going out and working. They're in and out of hospital, they're on their own, isolated at home, and it's extremely difficult for them. And I suppose we talk about morning sickness and we often play it down, but it's not just in the morning, and it's not just for a few weeks. It can go on in the extreme cases for the entire pregnancy.
Wow.
And 9 months is a long time to be sick.
And I think sometimes we can't get across. We've spoken to you about a year and a half ago about the issues with this, because Ger Tracy, who is here, she had hyperemesis and it completely affected her life. People are put into hospital. It affects mental health in a huge way because you're so sick all the time. Why is there such an issue with hyperemesis in Ireland in compared to other European nations? It's like there's an issue with treating this for women.
And I suppose it's complex around the licensing of the medication, but in Ireland our first-line medication, which Sabrina kindly mentioned, is Caraban, which is actually a very straightforward medication. It's paroxetine, a B vitamin, and doxycycline, an antihistamine. That's all that it is. And it's the most extensively, before the COVID vaccine, researched drug in pregnancy. So it has a good safety profile, and we should be able to get it for women. But due to licensing issues, it's not licensed. It's about 60 to 70 or sometimes more a week for women. So they're deciding between, do I buy food for my children or do I buy this sickness medication to help me get up and out of bed?
So this, without reimbursement, the drug can cost up to €3,000 throughout pregnancy, where if you look at in the likes of Germany, it's available on prescription for €5. In Spain, 80 cents a tablet. It makes no sense. And we're talking about this and the regulations around pharmaceutical drugs in Ireland as well. Listen, let's bring in Sabrina on this. Sabrina, tell us about your experience with hyperemesis, first of all, and the level of symptoms that you were experiencing.
It's a condition that is absolutely disgusting. There's no other way to describe it. From week 7, I have been severely sick. I didn't know what was actually going on when I first started having all the vomiting and feeling weak. I was away for a weekend and I ended up being in a fetal position inside in the bed of a hotel. And my partner had to literally just pick me up and bring me to hospital. I thought I was dying. I really, really did. Every single morning I get up, I have to wake up at about 5:45. And that was even my routine this morning, where I have to start taking medication, drinking some warm water, moving really slowly, like literally sitting inside in the bed or lying inside in the bed, because if I make any sharp movements, even now, I feel so unwell. Like, there's no way I could have come to studio in Dublin today. I feel so unwell. I will just start vomiting. And if I get to that stage, there has been mornings where I've literally been ready to go to work. And I start getting sick so bad that with the force of it, I'm bringing up blood. I end up wetting myself. I just have to strip off my clothes, get into the shower and just try and start all over again. But there has been times where it's gone beyond even that. That's a daily reality for me. But there has been so many times where I've had to go to hospital, because when you have hyperemesis, you're suffering from dehydration, malnutrition. You need to get IV medication, so you need to have fluids. So usually it's get in and get an IV line in as quick as I can, get fluids, get different types of medications put into my system that will try and control the vomiting. And it puts a huge amount of women into hospital. I definitely had this when I was pregnant with my son 21 years ago, not to the extent of what I have now. And there was so little known about it back then. But to be honest with you, until I actually went on my Instagram page and started talking about it, I didn't even know a lot about it. And I've been hearing stories from women that would truly shock you. And then when you bring the medication into it and how there's such barriers up against Irish women to getting this medication, it makes it even more isolating. And it absolutely has an effect on people's families, people's mental health. And it has a huge impact on the state from a perspective of being hospitalised, taking up hospital beds and missing work. The amount of women that cannot lead regular, normal lives because they're missing work and they need to get state sickness benefit. And it's a desperate condition.
And an awful lot, unfortunately, the attitude, because so little is known, we're now finally talking about it, but it's like, oh, Jesus, she's kind of blown it out of proportion, isn't it? When it's a debilitating illness. And Sabrina, you've told a story about a woman who got in contact with you, whereby she was vomiting so badly, she'd taken her Caravan, that she had to go through her vomit to get that tablet out because it means so much to her, because it's so expensive in this country. Aoife, you've been talking about this for I don't know how long, about getting access. This is happening to a huge proportion of women. It should not be happening when it's something that can be controlled. So you can get reimbursed now in Ireland for the €3,000 it could afford you if you can see a consultant obstetrician. Is that what's going on?
So as of January this year, they did bring down one barrier. So if you can see the consultant, but unfortunately for most of my patients, if you're public, you don't see the consultant till your 12th or even your second trimester, your 13th week of pregnancy. And we know what hyperemesis and nausea and vomiting in pregnancy can start at 4 to 6 weeks. And there's so much research that the earlier you begin treatment, the more effective it is. And that if you begin treatment early, you save hospitalizations. So it's very, very tricky. Even then, when you do get to see the consultant, it's a paper form that the consultant who is busy needs to fill out a paper form. It then needs to be uploaded, which can take 2 to 3 more weeks to be reimbursed. And then the approval only lasts for 3 months, even though we all know that a pregnancy is 9 months in duration. So the entire thing is just extremely frustrating.
So for people who can't afford this, because it is frightening, you were here a year and a half ago, this is something that doesn't seem like it's going to go away. So for people who can't afford it, they can't see the consultant, have you any advice on what they can do if they're experiencing these extreme symptoms?
So I suppose there's lots of supports in the community. There's the GP that we can give advice, and we do have 2nd and 3rd line medications that can help. Obviously, we like to use the 1st line because they have the best safety evidence. There's lots of supports like Hyperemesis Ireland that will give tips on how to stay hydrated, lots of tips on how to eat and try to manage it. But Caravan is a really nice, safe, effective treatment that should be cheap like Skittles to give to patients.
When are they going to sort this out?
So the hope is that things like today will hopefully push it through, because it should be pushed through as a matter of urgency for our women in Ireland.
Like, I just don't get it. It's a licensing issue that surely the government should be able to sort out fairly lively. They do it all the time.
Sabrina, you put this on your Instagram. Just the responses that you got on this, were they just phenomenal? The amount of people who've actually experienced this and haven't been able to get their hands on the drug?
Absolutely. There has been women who have messaged me who have stood at their chemist counter looking at the pharmacist and crying because they could not afford the medication. They weren't told beforehand about the price of the medication. And I understand what you're saying, that there's different ways of support. There is nothing like this medication that actually will halt the vomiting. There is no other treatments out there. And I think what the only other way of solving this, let's say if you can't get your hands on Caravan, is to present yourself to A&E. That is the only other option that you have. I mean, when it comes to licensing, it just doesn't make sense at all. There has been so many medications that have been put through, and there's women who have messaged me so much over the last 72 hours. It's scary. It's scary how they've had to make decisions whether to feed their children or to try and take their medication because they're out of work.
Yeah, I mean, presenting yourself to A&E, and we're seeing what situations are going on there at the minute, to think that that's the best option, it's frightening.
I can't believe that you have to depend on something like this, like a television show, to kind of go, all right, Minister, can we get something done? It's unbelievable. If you'd like to get in contact with us, and I know that we've done this 3 or 4 times since I've been working here, and nothing seems to be happening, it's 089 611 111. We would love to hear from you. Sabrina Hill, thank God that you're looking great this morning. I hope that you have a really good day. No heading into work in the Copper Salon inside in Cork. So thank you so much for taking the time and for being really honest. Like, Sabrina's got this video on her Instagram page, and it is her morning, and it is stark about what she has to go through. And Doctor, I know that you're fighting for this the whole time, and you're sick of saying the same thing over and over again. Dr. Aoife Nicowan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. 089 611 111 to get in contact. We'll be talking to you shortly. Welcome back to Ireland AM. We've got lots to come now between now and 10 a.m.
We sure do. Coming up very shortly, we're going to be joined by Karina Molloy, whose new book details her time in the Irish Defence Forces.
Also, another guest later on is a triple threat in that she acts, she can make you laugh, and she can talk a mile a minute. Comedian Enya Martin will be telling us about her many talents later in the show. That's what she's going to be like, okay, so guys, these are my talents. She's going to list her CV.
The whole lot is great.
Yeah.
Alan, he's feeling a bit hungry. What's on the menu, Al?
Well, Jack's going to list his CV now for
Fabulous.
us. Talented, good-looking chef. What?
Wow.
What have I done to deserve this compliment?
What are you making for us this morning?
We're making the takeaway classic that is orange chicken. So, it's actually, when I say takeaway, I thought it was a takeaway classic, but I've been informed that it's not a takeaway classic in Ireland. It must be an American takeaway classic.
I have never heard of that in my life.
I just might watch too much TV.
I had lemon chicken. Yeah, I would have had
lemon chicken's a big one. It's like a classic Panda Express style dish. Maybe I watch too many Seth Rogen movies.
Okay. So it's small little pieces of chicken, you put it in corn flour and fry it up.
Make it crispy and you toss it in kind of a...
crispy chicken then?
Crispy chicken with a slightly orange flavoured sauce.
Okay, crispy chicken for those of you who are used to it. Now, looking forward to it, because it's always going to be tasty later on. Deric has his skates on this morning. How are you getting on, Deric? Oh my God.
Well, welcome down here to Ringsend. Okay, I thought I was going to a roller disco. I'm actually going to a glow-in-the-dark disco. Hello, girl!
we have got fun and fitness coming your way in and around day 45 this morning. Lots of fun. Come on, girls. This should be fun.
Wow. OK, we weren't expecting that. Looking forward to that.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline, refugee supports may be time limited. Supports and accommodation for refugees seeking shelter in Ireland could be time limited under proposals due to be considered by the government.
44,000 health worker pensions hit by outdated HSE systems. Thousands of retired nurses, social workers and medical scientists are missing out on rises in their payments due to the HSE's inability to update its pay and pension systems. That's the front page of the Irish Independent.
The Examiner leads with funerals delayed as death rate rises. A spike in the number of deaths in recent weeks has disrupted funeral arrangements and put mortuaries under unprecedented stress.
Housing crisis, a critical block to growth. A damning report claims the housing shortage is threatening the economy and harming the country's attractiveness as a place to live. That's the top story on the Daily Mail.
The Mirror's front page, Irish soldier on Russian kill list. An Irishman fighting the Russians in Ukraine has been warned he is on a Kremlin kill list with a $50,000 bounty on his head.
The Sun leads with pint of the black stiff. Publicans have blasted Diageo for forcing them to hike the price of a pint of Guinness.
The Star leads with Pal nicks €100,000 off Gilligan. Mobster John Gilligan has been fleeced of more than $100,000 by one of his closest associates.
And the Herald goes with Snoop Dogg. Garda dogs will get body cams in a new initiative that is expected to prove particularly useful in hostage-taking, stakeout and other situations. There you have it now.
I know. I just wasn't expecting to talk about hostage situations and dogs. We have many of those. We were chatting to Sabrina Hill about hyperemesis, and Dr. Aoife was here as well, and she's spoken to us numerous times about this. And she actually said, we hope that speaking on a show like this, Ireland AM, will actually help get some help for these women who cannot afford the drug Caravan that can cost €80 a week in order to stop them vomiting all day long.
Where you can actually buy this in other countries for as little as €5 or even 80 cents. But for one tablet, it is €80 here, which just makes
it's just crazy. Can you buy it over the counter in other countries? Like if somebody was in Spain or something, can you stock up on it and bring it back?
Because it's just meant to be like a vitamin.
Yeah.
And hyperemesis just seems like such a debilitating... Like my wife suffered from morning sickness, but nothing to that level. And it was horrendous. Like, you know, it is such a debilitating time and it makes life really, really difficult. Orla here said, hyperemesis, what an awful time. I spent 6 weeks in hospital with this. The entire ward would wake and vomit all day long, getting sick all day. The pain, the worry, the weakness, thank God those years are over me. And I tell you, if you were like that, you wouldn't want to get pregnant.
No, there.
If you thought you were going to go through that,
no. No,
people who have made those decisions, they've had hyperemesis once and they've never gotten pregnant again. So, so thank you for getting in contact. You can send more messages in 0896 111 111. We're also talking about Marie Kondo. If it doesn't spark joy, throw it out, send it to landfill, is what she said.
I mean, that was all good for the kids.
Before she had the kids. So she's got 3 children now, and she's like, my house is messy. Paddy sent us in a picture of his house. And he says, here's a picture of my sitting room currently. I've got 2 kids and it's impossible to keep clean. Paddy. Also, that looks like heaven. Look at the giant Spider-Man.
Oh my God, that is so brilliant.
Are you having a reaction now? Are you all right?
Oh, I just think that's... like
we've got one here as well. Rachel, so my son's room always looks like this. I can't keep it clean.
For more than a day. Well, yeah, you expect that in the bedroom, I suppose.
Does he have a raised car bed? I love it.
But see, trying to get the kids to keep the room. And like, honestly, Alan, they just come in. And Jamie, too, he literally comes in and just turns
everything out.
The basket upside down, toys everywhere. Can't find what he wants, walks on again. Oh, my goodness.
Can we see
Marie Kondo.
Can we see Paddy's picture again? Look at Paddy's sitting room, seriously.
Stop shaming poor Paddy.
No, I'm saying he sent it in, but my God. Could you imagine that now?
Can we do a Can You Beat Paddy this morning?
Can you beat Paddy? I don't think so. I think that there'll be a lot. There'll be a lot of toys
I'd love some
to be
murals, murals on the wall
on the drawings,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
honestly,
some nightmares with that.
place.
089 611
You can
111.
tell
Send
the
us in
pair
pictures.
who have no kids having to listen.
We're really enjoying
it's great
it.
crack. Oh, it's so funny. Show it to me. Not having to deal with this every bloody day. Kate says, I only have one kid and even I can't keep the house clean. Can't even imagine what it'd be like with 3 kids. Agreed, Kate. Send in your pictures. We need a laugh this morning.
Yeah, absolutely, we do. We're going to take a very quick break now. We'll be back with you in Ireland AM shortly.
It's great to have you back. Our next guest was one of the first 40 female recruits for the Irish Defence Forces and served for 31 years with 11 overseas tours.
It's quite the CV. Karina Molloy is part of the group Women of Honour who are finally speaking out about the years of harassment and abuse faced throughout their time in the Defence Forces. Karina, thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you today.
Me.
Can we talk about why you decided to join the Defence Forces? Why was it? 1981, you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it was just a cliche. I wanted a life less ordinary. Didn't want to be sitting behind a desk doing secretarial work or anything ordinary like that. And then, of course, the military's in my DNA because both grandfathers were in the army. British and Irish Army. My brother joined the Irish Army. I had a cousin at the time in the British Army. My uncle was in the Royal Navy. So it was
a family trait.
Family trait, yeah. Although my mother wasn't impressed.
No.
What was her reaction?
Oh, she knew I was a tomboy all my life, and she just said, oh, no, I just don't want you to go into it. You just don't know what you're going into. I guess she had foresight, hindsight to see what I was going into because she just was afraid for me to go into such a male environment.
Well, that's it. The army, completely male-dominated. You were one of the first 40 females to come into it. What was the reaction initially to those 40 by the males?
Yeah. I think initially they were just taken aback that we were... Because it advertised that the government envisaged that we would... allow the men to come out of the offices and do more of the soldiering, and we would take over the admin. And a lot of men probably resented that because they'd been in the army a long time, and they said, "Oh, here are these women coming in, are taking our nice little jobs." But that's not what we wanted. We wanted to go in and be soldiers, but we weren't allowed to do that. For the first 12 years of our career, we were non-combatant, and it wasn't until 1992 that we were made totally equal. Now, initially we got equal pay, equal training, but until it came 1992, a letter was signed and we were made fully combatant.
And we'll talk about that in a minute because obviously, armies go into places where there are women as well, and it's important to have women in the army to deal with situations like that. But when did you realise that you were being othered, that you were different to everyone else? Obviously, you're a woman, you get that automatically. Yeah. But when you were like, we're not the same here, there's something different.
Well, I suppose it was from the very beginning because of our training, even though we got arms training and everything else, but it was just the way that we were treated. I've been quoted in saying that we were mollycoddled. We didn't get abusive language thrown at us. Because it was in the 80s and there was lots of recruits, platoons passing out one after another like a machine. And we would train side by side with the guys and we would hear their instructors turning the air blue with the language. Whereas with us, I think you feckin' Aegis was the worst we got.
OK. They just didn't want to...
They just didn't want to...
It was brand new for them, I suppose, as well. They were like shouting at women.
Yeah, can't be shouting at women. You might make them cry. And they just didn't know how far to push us.
OK.
So there's the whole side of it that you're not being shouted at, but there's the other side where you're assaulted, you're harassed, you experience some pretty horrific things when you're in the army.
Yes. That was at a later stage when we left the protection of the Cork camp, the training. Okay. And we went back, we all dispersed into our own commands and our own barracks. Because you have to remember that there was only 38 of us. So we were all dispersed all over the country. So the maximum in each barracks was 8 or 9. So we were like unicorns and we were targets for any innuendos whatsoever.
So what do you mean targets? Can you explain to us some of the things that actually happened that you're like, well, that's not going to happen to a lad?
Yeah, just general remarks. about our appearance. And what really annoyed me most was every time we'd walk into the dining complex for breakfast or lunch, there was complete and utter silence. There was hush. So, oh, wow, the women are here. Let's not say a word. You know, we might upset them, because what happened before that, all the, you know, it was, as you said, Tommy, a very male-dominated environment. So they did have pornographic photographs in the locker rooms. They had, you know, the page tree calendars in the offices. So all that environment was suddenly had to be ripped away and taken away from them before we arrived in the barracks. So that was terrible.
Awful.
Really, really. How dare they had to do that for us, you know.
Right.
What about you? You said when you had to go back to your local barracks, whatever else, you were very much on your own.
Yes.
What about when you went abroad? Was there a time someone burst into your room? I mean, did you feel alone when you were on tours, and particularly when you're abroad like that?
Yeah. For some reason, the Irish Army always billeted the females away from the Irish males, whereas we, as you said, we would feel more protected if we were in an international camp.
Okay.
They would put us away from our own Irish men.
So how far away? So how far would you be staying?
In a different camp. In some cases, in Bosnia, I was 15-minute walk away from my own Irish.
And who were you with?
I was with an international women's unit.
Okay.
So there was Greeks, you know, Swedes and Austrian girls, Americans, all in that block. But the Irish men were down in a different block, as I explained already, with the British female soldiers beside them.
Okay.
And I just couldn't fathom, well, why am I allowed to have a room in that block? Because I'm Irish. And the British also shared, the male British soldiers shared with that block with the Irish male soldiers. But the British allowed their English, their women to sleep in the same block. But I wasn't allowed.
But could there have been an issue? Because when you were posted overseas at one stage, there's a case of Officer X.
Yes.
What did he do?
Well, ultimately, at the end of the mission, he kept tormenting me throughout the mission, making, you know, lewd remarks and inappropriate touching throughout the 6 months of, you know, you have a great ass. Look at the hips of Molloy, you're fantastic. You look amazing in your bikini. And he would walk past in the office and stroke the back of my neck or the back of my back or the small of my back. He said, "Oh, Molloy, you're looking good today." And this was an officer, certainly not a gentleman, but and I had to work with this, and I reported it several times, and nothing happened. So at the end of that mission, a week before we were due to fly home, he banged on my door, and I had to open the door because it's a mission area, and he broke in and attempted to sexually assaulted me, and because he said his words were, "Oh, I'm having you now, Molloy, and you've been avoiding me for the last 6 months." But my saving grace was that he was very drunk, and I got away.
So you got away?
I got away, yeah.
What happened after that?
Nothing.
Why do you mean nothing happened? Surely that...
No. I had reported that man for inappropriate behaviour for the entire 6 months. I was going home in 5 days. I was told, get on that plane, Molloy, and forget about it.
You speak about like how everybody comes together, they protect themselves and almost coerce you into not telling your story.
Yeah. So my expression is that they circle the wagons, because when I did run across to get help to get that Officer X out of my room, my sergeant said, "Oh, you go back to the room and make sure he's not wandering around that camp drunk, and you take care of him till we get dressed, and we'll come and help you, take you out of the room." So
you had to go and try to corral the fella who broke into your room and wanted to assault you?
Yeah, but I didn't. I stood and waited for the sergeant and the private to come with me.
Why did you stay doing it when you were putting up with this?
I stayed because, one, it was my career, and I was extremely passionate, and I loved serving my country. And also...
Even putting up with this every day, and nobody listening to you.
Yeah, because I hoped it would get better. You know, I just hoped it would get better for the younger girls coming in.
Did it get better?
It got better in the sense that we became fully combatant, where all the avenues, all the doors were opened for us. It got better in that sense. And I had hoped that it would get better when I got promoted to a senior NCO rank, that I would get more respect. But it didn't. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was after serving almost 30 years, and 15 of them as a senior NCO, I got an anonymous letter on my desk one day, and they said, "Oh, Molloy, you know, just keep giving us a laugh. You're giving us a great laugh trying to apply for BQ's vacancies, because you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there."
You were trying to get promoted.
Rank. Yes, I was trying to get for a higher
rank.
They
said it was great crack.
Great crack in the mess. You're giving us a great laugh. Keep applying.
Obviously, it takes time for institutions to change. I'm not forgiving in any way. I'm not saying to forgive them. But when you're talking about something like the Defence Forces that are going into places where there are extremely vulnerable people and they're meant to be there to protect, when they don't protect their own, I find it incredibly, really disheartening. And more than that, let's forget the fact that this is abuse and assault.
Yeah.
It's really disheartening. How can you trust a lot of these people?
It
or
is.
Some of these people?
Yeah, it's very, 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 very hurtful, because I did approach a lot of men when they were, making rude remarks and sarcastic remarks, and I would turn to them and say, "Excuse me," I said, "don't you have a mother? Don't you have a sister, a daughter, a niece? Like, put me in her situation."
But is that not depressing? To make someone stop being vile to you, you have to put it parse it as though you've got a mother. They should just have respect for a human being without saying you've got a mother or a daughter. It's just, it's what's wrong with the world.
Yes. But the big word there is that there's been no accountability.
Nothing.
Nothing. No, not yet. It's getting there.
With this group, Women of Honour, sorry,
yes.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Do you think it's going to happen? Because you've come together, you and other women who have been in the Irish Defence Forces. Do you think that someday they'll stand up and go, "Jesus, lad, sorry about that"?
Well, that's what we are demanding. We're demanding an apology and an acknowledgement and action and accountability. And we are hopeful that it will happen and that it will come with this IRG report that we're anxiously waiting to read.
Yeah, listen, the Women of Honour, of course, they're shining the light on the abuse that women have suffered. You, of course, have written a book as well, A Woman in Defence, the story of the enemy within the Irish Army. I mean, that says it all. Would you encourage a woman to join the Irish Army now?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Wait till we see what the IRG comes up with on its recommendations to protect men and women, because there's a lot of vulnerable men there as well.
There are good people, though. It's important to say that you worked with some fantastic people.
Yes, I had some great guys supporting me throughout my military career. Yeah, and yes.
It is really, because sometimes it can feel like us versus them, but it's not.
Some good banter with the guys.
Yeah.
Karina Molloy, listen, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story. Your book is available now as well. It's a fantastic read. Well, frightening read. But listen, really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, yeah, we definitely do. Of a Monday morning, if you're looking for a good takeaway dish to try at home later on, we've got one for you, because Jack's in the kitchen and you're making us
orange chicken.
It's not really orange chicken.
I have an orange in front of me.
I know, but it's shredded crispy chicken. I think that's
with an orange sauce.
I think that's what people would know it for.
Look, actually, the beauty about this dish is the viewers at home can actually take away from it and expand to this dish, or take away the orange and swap in different sauces, and just take the cooking technique of the chicken. That's the most important part.
Or just ring up and get a takeaway.
Just call me and rinse me by the hour.
Can I get Jack's shredded chicken, please?
Right, how do we get going with it?
Right, so first of all, anyway, we're going to marinate our chicken. So I always use chicken thighs. You know that. And all the viewers know I only ever use chicken thighs. More fat, more better. I just shredded up the chicken thighs, popped them into a bowl with some sesame seeds, some soya sauce, salt, pepper, and that's it. Just leave that marinate.
Leave them then overnight?
No, about 10, 15 minutes and that's it. Leave them marinate. You can leave it overnight if you want, right? It'll get very, very salty from the soya sauce, so you just be aware of that.
Okay. How much soya sauce are we talking?
For a full packet of chicken thighs, about a tablespoon. 2 tablespoons.
That little? Or
that's it, yeah.
So then don't do it overnight then if you...
Don't. Well, you can, but just... if you're into soya sauce flavour, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
All right, okay.
So put it into corn flour then, is it?
Yeah. And then straight into corn flour, mix it around. And then here I have a pan of hot oil. Now, I'm using 2 pans because I love making a mess, but also for the magic of TV so you can move a lot faster. At home, just have a little bit of oil in your wok. Once you fry off your chicken, dispose of the dirty oil, and then start stir-frying in that pan, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Chicken goes into your hot oil. See the way when I put it in, there's no movement from the oil? There's no sizzle. It's not ready yet. So I'm just going to turn that up. And I'm going to move over here.
You want the sizzle. Is there a kind of an ideal temperature? If you have like a meat thermometer or anything like that?
Yeah, your ideal temperature is about 180 degrees Celsius.
Okay, that's
180!
Right, so over to my wok here. I have my wok on a medium heat, okay? With about 2 tablespoons of neutral tasting oils. That's sunflower oil, vegetable oil, etc. in there. Now, I'm going to pop in about 4 cloves of garlic that I've thinly sliced and a little kind of thumb-sized piece of ginger that I've just roughly chopped up.
Did you tell me last week that I was wasting money by using olive oil all the time?
No, that wasn't me.
Was it not? OK.
Olive oil is good for you.
Edward. Oh, Edward was saying, yeah. Rapeseed oil.
Rapeseed is the best. But olive oil's got the scandalous money recently.
Oh, anyway, that's a different topic.
No, I know, but like,
it's not good for you. Rapeseed oil is not good for you.
Is it
That's
not?
what I heard. Anyway, let's move on.
Not good for the planet either.
No.
So you have your garlic, ginger, some orange skin that I just cut off with my knife, or if you have a vegetable peeler at home, just give it a peel. And that'll give a lovely orange flavour to the sauce. Some chilli, pop it in. That's just a normal... Right, Alan, the packet said it's not hot. So I'm going to trust the packaging from the supermarket that chilli is not hot.
All chilies are hot.
Some are mild, some are really hot. Right, once they start to go golden, I'm going to put in some Chinese 5-spice to give it that kind of really nice spice bag kind of flavour.
I'm a bit confused. What's this to do with the shredded chicken now? We're making a...
So I'm making a sauce here.
Oh, this is in the sauce.
Right.
Say the fat's probably...
I'm multitasking as well, which make it confusing. It's confusing for me. Now, see the sizzle?
Oh, yeah.
Sizzle ready to go. So pop off all your chicken, your shredded chicken. And, of course, if you're on a health kick or whatever, you can do this in the oven.
And how long are we talking, or how do you know when it's going to be done?
When it's golden and crispy like that, it's finished.
OK.
And when you have Alan Hughes just having little samples, he'll tell me whether it's raw or not.
He was making me some samples earlier on. So I've had about 4 already.
I'll ring him tomorrow morning and find out if it was cooked or not.
Yeah.
Would there be too much?
I think it'll be this afternoon, I'll know.
Is there, like, could you put too much of the chicken into that?
Yeah, so...
Are you better
to
have
it spaced out? What I put in there is just perfect. If you overload it, the oil temperature will just drop and you'll have soggy chicken. And as well, all the chicken will sink to the oil and stick to the bottom of the pan as well.
OK, so it's important to kind of...
And as I said there, like, you could do that in the oven if you wanted as well. It's grand. So once everything goes nice and crispy, we're going to pop in some soya sauce in here. We're going to start making our sauce now, right? Soya sauce. Then in this bowl, I have chili garlic sauce, which you get in a little jar in the supermarket, or you can use sriracha. They're pretty much the exact same.
OK. So sriracha is going to be very spicy.
Yeah. But the chili garlic isn't as spicy. So then you have rice wine vinegar and a little bit of white sugar. And
My
that's
goodness.
And water.
Right, OK.
And
There's an awful lot going into this.
And a tablespoon of corn flour.
That's where the flavour is, you see.
Pop it in.
I hope.
But all this stuff, they're all condiments. They all hang out in that random drawer in your kitchen, and they never really go off.
Yeah, we have rice wine. I'd say I made it for something about 3 years ago. Does it go off?
I don't know if I'd be tasting that now. Does that come off?
Once it comes up to the simmer, add in some orange juice.
Are you going to put this chicken that you made back into that now?
Oh, I am. Once it boils.
Oh, you are?
So get that up on a high heat. Add in your scallions that I just cut into 1-inch pieces.
Right, let's go.
And now this goes back in.
Chicken goes back in. And as that simmers, the corn flour is going to thicken it, all the orange juice is going to infuse in, and I just toss it.
Oh, so it's right sticky.
Yeah.
Oh, it does
look. Oh, now that looks lovely now, in fairness.
And then I just make sure it's not too salty or anything. Oh, class.
Yeah, it's too salty, but we're on telly, so let's not worry about it.
Let's not worry about that.
OK, come on, let's get plating up here.
Are you sure that's cooked now?
That is fully cooked.
I'll taste it if you want.
Oh, I'll eat it all in front of you, Alan, if you don't. And that's it.
Oh, that looks delicious now.
The shine on it.
And see how quick it is.
Jack. Love it, love it. OK. Let's
So if you don't like the orange flavour, you can swap it out with whatever you want. Or if you have, like, you know, jarred sauces that you prefer, if you're in a real rush, you can just use that.
Is it nice?
You'd think you're in a restaurant. Or takeaway, yeah. Fake away, perfect, I reckon. Thumbs up.
I was hoping he'd eat a chili so we get another viral clip.
I promise you it wasn't too hot. Jack O'Keefe, as always, thank you so much for that. Delicious.
Yeah, delicious. Maureen, you've got to try this. Seriously?
Oh.
There is a kick off it now, in fairness. Do you not get the kick? There is a kick. There is a kick
I love
off
when his eyes start to water and I can see it from the other side of the room. It's so good. We'll have time to do more eating because after the break, our Deric is channeling his inner Patrick Swayze and giving us his best dance moves. Will he get to carry a water medal? We don't know. We'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Hi, very welcome back. It's time to get over to Deric, who's going to put a smile on our face with his dancing shoes on. Well, the morning rave. Take it on, Deric.
Yeah, lads, come here. We're always up to something. Monday morning, we're stuck in a neon disco class here in Ringsend. You couldn't make it up. Shauna's with us. Good morning, Shauna.
Hi, Deric. Hi. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah. Now, Shauna, I actually thought I was going to a roller disco this morning, and I walked in and I said, "Thanks, where are the rollerblades?" He said, "Deric, it's the neon disco."
Yeah, no, we got our glow sticks, no rollerblades, just our glow sticks.
Okay, now tell us about Danspire.
Well, Danspire is a community dance fitness company. So we basically, our logo is to inspire to dance, inspire through dance. So we just want to get everybody active through dance. We teach 2.5-year-olds all the way up to our oldest member who's 71.
Who's 71?
Yeah,
I was
Miriam,
saying to
she's
her,
here,
Miriam,
yeah.
here.
She doesn't mind me saying
no,
that.
No, she doesn't. Now, where did the idea come from?
Well, I've always danced competitively as a child, went into a proper career in law, but just was missing something, and I just found dance fitness, and I just felt there was just a need to get the community together, and the way I could do it was through dance. That was my passion, and I wanted to share it with everybody. So we basically just get out there and try and get everybody, whether you can dance or whether you've never danced before, just get them together. The physical benefits, the mental health benefits, and then the social benefits are just incredible. So
let's talk about the calories you burn in this class, because you work up a proper sweat, don't you?
Well, so far we checked.
How many have we burned off so far?
I'm not sure calorie-wise.
I think it was like 3,500, was it?
Well, steps. We've done nearly 4,000 steps since you arrived this morning.
And we've just been hopping around here, just practicing. So, like, you do work up a sweat, don't
absolutely, yeah. I think it's a little bit underestimated, the amount of sweat that you can work up. It's very much... you get out of it what you put into it. So if you're having a bad day, you can come in and you can take it easy, and you're still going to, by the end of it, your energy's going to be up and you're going to be really pushing yourself.
Come here, we're just going to pop over here to Miriam. Miriam, do you enjoy the class?
I do, I love it. It's great.
Do you want to tell viewers at home what age you are?
No.
Never ask a lady her age, but
71.
you're 71. Do you always have your hair done like this as well?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Most times, yeah.
And you love it, all the camaraderie, bit of fun.
It's fantastic. It's brilliant. Best thing I ever did.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you still clubbing?
I'm still clubbing. I go to Copperface Jacks every Saturday night. I love down here. It's great fun.
And great camaraderie as well.
Great way to keep fit as well, and meet people too.
All right. Well, I believe you're gonna lead a class here, Audrey.
Are you going to join in?
Yeah, of course I'm going to join in. Okay, what are we going to do?
Right, you just take a spot. Thanks, Donna. Do you want to go back in? All right, we ready?
I hope Tommy and Word, you're joining in.
You got to get your glow sticks. You're going to get a march up. Get your heart rate up.
Let's go.
Are you ready? Here we go. Hands up and down, up and down. There you go. Woo! Yes!
Tommy,
big arms all the way up. Good
We're doing it. We're here. We're all set.
Can we try to do it in time?
What are we doing?
This side.
Where we go?
Good job.
Oh, come on, we're just doing it.
All right, here we go. March it out. Yes. Are you ready?
My God.
Roly poly.
Let's go. Here we go. Get your heels going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Get those heels going, Deric.
Guys, you can find them online. Danspire.ie across all their socials as well. But for now, we're having lots of fun here. Back to you in studio. Come on.
There we go. Oh, come on, we can't even do it on time. Okay, go to the right. Go to the right. Right, left, right. Look at Tommy. He can't even do that.
Go to break and get me out of my misery, please.
I'll be back with you in a minute. Oh, lads, the dress-up box.
Oh,
Hello, good morning. It's great to have you back. We've lots more to come up in the final hour of the show.
Is everyone okay? It's like a teacher trying to get everyone's chatting. Everyone's chatting. Her mammy gets just as mobbed by fans as she does. Comedian Enya Martin will be telling us how Facebook sketches turned into her dream career.
And we're pulling Ali Ryan in for a chat. She's going to talk to us all about the drama from Love Island last night. Ali, eventful evening?
So much drama. Also, I'm glad I'm getting pulled for a chat, not pushed for a chat. But yes, we'll be talking about Tom and Zara breaking up, Tom and Ellie's kiss, and why the new bombshell may be causing trouble for a good few couples.
Oh, right. Dun, dun, dun. Love it.
Right, OK. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to listen to you later on and see what's going on.
I just heard last night, I saw Ekin Sue was trending because I think somebody's saying, like, somebody is being like, oh, yeah, we're getting a nod.
Oh,
okay.
we're getting
the
a
drama
nod.
is coming.
Here we go. Alan, is there any drama on the catwalk?
There's going to be loads of drama on the catwalk. Rob, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What kind of fashion are we looking at
We are
this
taking
morning?
a look ahead of the bank holiday weekend this weekend. We are taking a look at the hottest trends. So if you're going on a city break or a country escape, we have the most stylish pieces from blazer, jeans combos to high octane glam. And we're going to be checking out top trends from bow block brights to pretty prints.
High octane.
High octane
Lads,
glam.
lads,
Right there,
it's high octane here this morning. You don't get it anywhere else except Ireland, yeah. High octane fashion.
Hold on to your hats.
Hold on to your hats, lads.
I'm expecting a Lady Gaga meat dress to come out at some stage.
Oh my God, can we keep up now, Deric? But we can't keep up with this fella. We were impressed with your moves earlier, Deric. Oh, he's still going.
Still dancing.
Hi guys, say good morning. We are here in Ringsend. We are having a proper neon disco. Girls, can we do a twerk? Come on. Let's twerk, girls. Come on, Jackie. Ew. Ew. Come on, Shauna. Great fun.
We'll just leave you at it then, Deric. Fair play to you.
Sorry, what just happened there? That was just... you never know.
Hello, it's great to have you back. We were speaking earlier on to Karina Molloy, who has a book out at the minute, A Woman in Defence, basically talking about the Irish Defence Forces. She was in a part of it for 31 years. And some of the things that she had to deal with were pretty horrific now that she dealt with. And we have a message in here from somebody else who's in the Defence Forces. Fair play to Karina. I served for 25 years now. I agree with her. The whole system of complaints is corrupt and useless to the lower ranks. It's only there to help the officers. I personally had an appeal to the DF Ombudsman and it was pointless. Even though I had the dates at times and witnesses, I still lost my redress.
In relation to what that. And Karina was just saying this isn't a man versus woman issue. It's just like that. It can be some people are protected and other people aren't protected. She said she worked with some amazing men throughout her time, but that it can be very hard for people who look to be vulnerable or different from other people inside there.
So, yeah, no,
it's
awful.
awful.
A real expose on it. Of course, she's part of Women of Honour now, who are coming together to try and get that all out. So to be an open place for people to go to.
Yeah. We were also speaking earlier on about Marie Kondo, who is also the queen of tidiness. The queen
Not
of clean.
anymore.
Not anymore, because she's had 3 children. And she said,
I love that.
I am embracing it now. My house is not tidy and I have to live with it.
Did she have the Netflix series?
Yes.
Yes.
That was her.
Is she going to do a new one now? Or just have a messy house?
Just have a messy house. And you were sending in your pictures throughout this morning and something fascinating about how mad your house can be. And Nicola, this is my sitting room with one 4-year-old boy. Do we have it there? There it is. One 4-year-old boy. Look at the sitting room. Oh, look, that's what you said, Tommy. When Jamie comes in, just turns everything into...
Tips everything.
Well, let's just say that Nicola also has baby twin boys.
On the way.
No, they're there, I think.
Oh, really? Oh,
and
yeah,
she's not looking forward to when they can get out and they can start moving. Can you imagine that? 3 boys.
Good luck, Nicola. But that, like, they're just such a wreck.
They've just got a lot of stuff.
And then when it comes out and she likes playing all the little things and then just leaves them, goes off to the next one.
Next one.
Wild.
I love this from Brendan. I've not seen the floor of my sitting room for 5 years.
I love it.
Is there carpet or flooring? What is down there? I don't know.
I just love how you just can't get over this. This is a daily life for us. Like, the two of you go, can you imagine the filth?
No.
I couldn't be dealing with it.
I've gotten messages on Instagram from people who are triggered by my house because I've got stuff everywhere. So I live like I'm a toddler. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Janine, I've got 4 kids. I clean every day and my house is never clean. She's just like, I clean every day and it's never, ever clean.
But with 4 children.
Go with it.
4 children. That's what Marie Kondo said. She just has to embrace it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, listen, thank you for sending in those pictures. Gave us a laugh this morning. Coming up after the break, comedian Enya Martin is going to be telling us how impersonating your Irish mammy led her into an accidental stand-up career. See you shortly.
Welcome back now. From impersonating her mum on Facebook to performing at venues around the country, Enya Martin's comedy has become part of the stand-up scene.
And if that wasn't enough, you can also add actor, radio host to her CV. Enya Martin joins us now. Good morning to you, Enya. Good to have you with us.
What's the crack?
Great, thank you. We're just discussing how busy you are. So radio host, this is the weekend show that you're doing with Crossy. You always in the 6 o'clock show as well on FM 104. How do you find the radio?
Yeah, it's great. It's a bit surreal because this time last year, like I wouldn't have pictured this, you know. And that's what when the lads from FM 104 contacted me going back a few months ago, I had told them in the kind of like interview, a coffee shop, and I was like, I applied for like a radio course in one of the colleges in Dublin, and when I was like left school, and they had said, yeah, no, radio's not really for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So 10 years later now, I built.
Why was that?
I don't know. I just think they thought I was a bit of a novice, like, you know. So, but I mean, I did have to mature, I suppose. So 10 years later now,
But how are people meant to learn? You know what I mean? Like, you're there to kind of learn.
Yeah. I suppose I was a bit green, but like, look at the social media page, the Giz a Laugh page has helped me massively with loads of opportunities. So look, I put myself out there, you know.
You've taken to it because you know with radio breaking into that scene, and there's a lot of the old ones who are have been in it for years. Have you enjoyed that kind of going? Because you've got that. You always have a direct connection with social media anyway, but kind of being behind a mic.
Yeah, well, it's like a show reel for me. Like, that's how I've got so many opportunities out of it. But, like, when I am behind a mic, I'm behind a camera, like, I completely forget that there's other people on the other side of it, listening or watching. Like, you know, even sitting here, I just feel like it's us talking. You know what I mean? You're not conscious of people listening or watching. So I suppose that's a good, it's something good to have.
We should get more conscious of the fact people are watching sometimes, shouldn't we?
I think it's better off actually forget about that.
Yeah.
What about Emmy O'Neill? Because you got Emmy O'Neill on, who performed in the Late Late, who was just had the whole place laughing. And you got it straight on the show. Like, are you trying to react to that? Like, who does all this? Is it kind of yourself and Crossy constantly messing each other, need to move on? From the toy show, she was,
So when I seen her on the toy show, I had only gotten back from a show myself, and I sat down to watch the tail end of it, and Crossy had tagged me in a picture of her on the Late Late show. I was like, oh, Enya, she reminds me of you. And she reminded me of myself when I was only like 12 years of age. So it was great to have her on and give her an opportunity, because I couldn't do something like that at 12 years of age.
No.
But then you invited her to do warm-up, like to be an opening act for you.
Yeah, so Crossy had texted me. He's like, why? I said, you know what, if she's ever looking for an opportunity to do a warm-up for me, like, I'll totally have her on. He goes, why don't we have her on tomorrow? I was like, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to have her on my Liberty Hall show. And the power of social media, we were able to get her on the radio the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah, she didn't even go home. Like, she just came straight from RT onto...
I just love the way...
Actually?
No.
The 12-year-old.
She was out after RT going, I'm just going to rage all night and then go on the radio the next day.
Living up to what you expect from the comedian cycle, all right. How are you finding it with the stand-up and stuff as well at the minute? Because you have your new show out as well at the minute, Ask Your Ma.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because I think it kind of follows on from all your videos with your mum and stuff. I mean, does she feature in it?
No, so I don't bring her on stage. Like, I do talk about her on stage. So she's still a bit green. I'm kind of like slowly introduced her onto the stage. Like, I do bring her out at the tail end of shows, but she loves it. Even my dad was saying when she comes to watch me in some of my shows, and you just say to her, you know, when people are coming up to her after the show, tell her not to roll her eyes, because they're just being nice. She started to turn into a little diva, she is.
She's like, oh my God.
Pictures. Yeah, no.
Just want to have a quiet drink. Because she has become quite well known.
Yeah.
Like, people really do want to meet your mother, because that's how it kind of all started. You just impersonating her and the stuff that she said.
Yeah, well, she always said when I was smaller that, like, I observed everything. Like, I just watched everything and soaked in everything like a sponge. So, and a lot of people say that about my comedy. That's very observational. It's about everyday stuff. So.
And we don't like to bring up the lockdown too much here, but during lockdown you did something incredibly brave, and you moved in with your in-laws.
Oh, yeah. So we moved into like a granny flat out his mum's back garden, and that's what a lot of the show is about. The new stand-up show is about living with your other half.
Yeah, with the in-laws.
Yeah.
Are you a very brave woman to be talking about your in-laws on stage?
I know, in fairness now, they are lovely. No, they are, but it's just... Like, when you live with your other half, you realise, you know, a lot of men were very mammied growing up. So it's just like, my ma doesn't do it like this. My ma does it like that, you know? So there's a lot of kind of, like, on stage, just a lot of observations I've made. Like, he's mad about washing clothes. mad about washing the clothes.
He's mad about washing the clothes?
Like I'll come home and, you know, like after a long day, I'm taking out my clothes and he's coming in to help me. I'm like, what's going on here? And he's just like, are you mad? There's a full colour wash ready to go on. There's gale force winds outside. He's mad into the washing.
He's got the barometer going up.
Yeah.
It's a good drying day.
That's a winner, that is.
Yeah.
Does he cook?
He's a chef, yeah. So
You've landed on your feet.
I was about to say.
Well, you think that for.
This is the dream.
Yeah.
This is it. When all of this sort of happens, because you have been, like, I've been laughing at stuff that you've been putting online your shows for years. Like, you've been around a long time, but you're so young. Then something happened, and you thought, did you think it was a prank at first? This was for you to go and audition for Deadly Cuts, the movie Deadly Cuts.
Yeah, I was approached on my Gives a Laugh Facebook page, and I get a lot of messages about featuring in like student films and stuff. And like, to be honest, like I wouldn't have the time to do everything, you know. So and they were just like, oh, it's this production company and this is the budget, and it was like 7 figures, and I was like, oh yeah, and just email me over the script.
This is legit.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is legit. So I auditioned for actually the main girl in it, Stacey, and then I didn't get that, and they were like, actually, we have another role in mind for you. I think it'll suit you, and I got it. Yeah.
And
do you just say yes to everything? Is it just sort of like when stuff like this comes along, you just got to keep going with it and see where it takes you?
Yeah, and you know what? Like once you're going to audition and you don't get it, like they're still going to remember you for other things up ahead, and I think that's what happened as well. Like they had remembered me from another audition.
Oh really?
I got the part, and to be honest, like I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. I thought it would be popular, but to be like #1 on Netflix in Ireland, like.
Yeah, when it went on to Netflix, because people did go see it in the cinema as well. We're noticing more and more people are going to see Irish films in the cinema, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then when it gets this popularity, and your name is getting out there more and more in relation to not being pigeonholed as, you know, an online comedian.
Yeah.
Is that something that's really nice now?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, stand-up comedy is, I suppose, acting. Like, that's an alter ego up on stage. But the only thing I do regret about the movie is I didn't go to the cinema by myself and, like, kind of hide in the corner and see other people's reactions.
Oh.
Because at the premiere, everyone's obviously going to laugh and enjoy it and stuff. But that's the only thing I regret now is going to the cinema and watching it with everybody else.
You'll know for the next one whenever you're in a big Marvel movie next as well.
Yeah.
Just how did you find the transition that from doing your videos on Facebook to going on to stand-up in front of a whole stage? Like, it must be such a difference.
Yeah, like, I was totally against doing stand-up. People were suggesting it to me, and I was like, no, I'm quite happy just hiding behind a camera for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because I was comfortable there. But then someone had roped me into doing 5 minutes in Whelan's. It was Pop the Cherry, and they were, like, known for, like, getting beginners on. So I went down one night, they wrote me into it, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I got really good feedback. I was like, maybe I'll do this some more. I felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And then, the seed was planted and it spiraled from there, and now I'm doing Vicar Street in September.
How many times is this Vicar Street?
I think it's my 6th time, so yeah.
Wow,
Sixth time doing
incredible.
Vicar Street. The new tour is called Ask Your Ma. You're all over the country as well, including dates like Cork on February the 3rd, Bray on February 18th, and Friday, September 23rd, you're going to be in Vicar Street. People can find out everything online. There you are there, doing your thing. Enya Martin, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lovely to chat to you.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Enya.
Great.
Now, Alan, what else is coming up?
Well, Tommy, still to come this morning, we're talking all things Love Island, and there was a bit of controversy in the villa last night. We're going to be chatting with Ali Ryan about that. And Rob Condon has some looks perfect for the bank holiday. We'll see in a few minutes.
It's a beautiful thing to say. The long weekend is just ahead. God bless you, Bridget. So we've got your style covered for any weekend getaway plan.
Rob Condon is here to show us what to wear over St. Bridget's weekend.
Go on, Bridget.
Go on, Bridget.
Yeah.
We're going to get complaints now, do you know that?
What? Delightful. Patrick has had a bank holiday for ages. Why can't Bridge have one too?
Exactly, and we're taking a look at the most stylish outfits to wear if you are heading away, maybe on a staycation this weekend, or if you're just heading out as well. We've got some really stylish pieces from Lucan Shopping Centre.
Lovely.
Lucan, only down the road.
There we
Exactly.
go. Sarah is coming out with our first look today.
Yeah, Sarah is with us here, and we've kept it kind of quite casual here with this look, but it's also a look that you could transform into going out on a night out, but a perfect look for travelling also, and that you can mix and match in your wardrobe. First off, with this blazer here, we've gone with a tweed blazer. It's a long line, it's double-breasted. You can see the pocket detailing to it. Beautiful blues and navies in this blazer. Now, it does have a matching skirt, kind of a 60s mini skirt if you wanted to go with that. but we have
you decided to
just
not
to keep,
go with it.
Exactly, just to keep it a little bit more casual this morning so that it can be a day outfit or an outfit for travelling. If you are heading on a staycation, we've gone with the logo tee underneath it, so that's making it just a little bit more casual. But you could go with a chunky knit underneath it, or if you wanted to dress it up, you could go with a blouse under it also.
Yeah.
But I think it just works really well, the blue tones with this.
Yeah, it's great. Like a dress underneath it, then it's nighttime. So you're grand. You can just keep on wearing it
over the
throughout
shoulders.
weekend.
You've got that piece that you're going to be able to mix and match. And then we've gone with a pair of white mum style jeans. They're cropped jeans. They're high waisted. I think what's quite important with a mum jean, you want to tuck in your t-shirt or your top or whatever you're wearing on the top. So that's the style, is what they're called, as a mum jean.
And let's just say, for those of us that permanently look partially pregnant, it's not for everybody.
Exactly. Well, it's not for everyone, but
like,
try them on because there is an elasticated in this waistline.
They really unflattering on me. I can't wear them, but lovely on Sarah.
Yes, but it's quite important if you are wearing them to tuck in as well, or do a half tuck, because it is going to give you a little bit of better shape in them. Then we've got the handbag here. It's a quilted taupe with gold detailing to it, so just a perfect neutral colour that's going to match in.
And so is that no one knows Sarah Morrissey is out and about. We've got sunglasses.
We've got the sunglasses. They're a Tom Ford pair of sunglasses, really statement piece, but they're 3 in 1. So you've got your first frame, you've got your second frame there, and then you've got your optical frame underneath it. So you've got a 3 in 1 with those sunglasses.
Myrna is all over them. Myrna is all over
Sarah has been sitting there doing her twirling around, and she's like, "Oh, you wait until I show you what I'm bringing out later on."
How much are they?
They are 660, but they are Tom Ford.
Okay, right.
They are Tom Ford. So if you're buying a normal pair of Tom Ford sunglasses, they're about $350.
But then you sit on them, or
so
you
you're
break
getting
them, or
that
you
too.
lose them.
Well, take care of them. Put them in the case.
Come on, a lot of people have their glasses for ages. Sarah.
Yes.
Love that now.
Necklace then from the jewellers, a really simple kind of pendant there, and chain detailing, but it just works really well. I think with accessories, you want to bring away just a few accessories that you can mix and match.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a lovely, lovely look. And the shoes, have we done the shoes already?
The shoes are models out.
Shoes are models out.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, whoops-a-daisy. Sorry, Sarah, they're lovely.
Yes.
And that's the lovely bag there. Sarah, you have... Well, now, I don't know what the girls are going to do now you've done that.
Sorry. We need tricks now, we need tricks.
Oh, Lord. Hannah, the pressure's on. I don't know what you're going to be able to do with these sunglasses.
Next up, Hannah is with us, and we have gone with a perfect day dress, but it is a day dress that you could transition into evening depending on what you're going to do with it, jacket-wise, shoes-wise. This is available from Dunn's. It's €35. Really great colours to this. V-neck line to it, that kind of mini prairie style skirt to this dress. Drawstring waistline to it, elasticated at the back of it there, but a really great dress that you're going to be able to throw a leather jacket over, a denim jacket over, but also if you were bringing on a night out, go with a really oversized blazer over the shoulders, on, and a pair of heels, and you're ready to go.
Ready to go. With the what does your sunglasses do? Nothing.
That was fabulous.
They're a little bit simpler with those sunglasses. And then accessory-wise, we've gone with these hoop-style earrings with the diamante detail, and of course the Ray-Bans, which are kind of quite 60s in style, and they are also available from Mullins and Henry, but they're not a 3-in-1 on them.
They're not a 3-in-1 classic.
I should have kept the 3-in-1 till last.
You should have. The reveal should have been at the end.
Too soon.
Thank you so much for that absolutely beautiful look. Cheers. We're going to move on to Blonde. I feel, yeah, you did.
I did. I should have kept them till the end. Yeah.
Jesus, we're very simple people, aren't we? That's what I'm actually going to be thinking about. I know. Yeah.
Blonde is with us here, and we are dressing things up a little bit, but we're transitioning as well with the print of this dress. So I think it's important at the moment, it is still winter, but that you're buying pieces that you're going to be able to transition into spring, summer. The dress is $239. It's a really soft material, pocket detailing. You can see the slit detailing to it. Really great flow to it. A little bit of a sports looks vibe to the top of it, the way the collar is, and into that button detailing. We've got the matching belt with it. If you wanted to bring a bow block bright, you could take a blue or a pastel, change that to kind of break up the print of the dress. I think this would be perfect for a long weekend away. Also occasion wear, you could bring this into, at the moment, if you had a confirmation coming up, cobalt blue coat if you had it. Over this would look great. Or as you get a little bit more into spring, summer, kind of a white blazer with this would look also really well. Then with the necklace, we've gone with a layered necklace from the jewellers. So you can see it's just layered there. You've got the shorter one, then it goes into the longer with the diamante detail, and just a really simple piece as well, even though it is layered on the neckline to that. Then with the bag, we've gone with a bold block bright, just to show that bold block brights will work with this kind of simple printed floral.
Yeah, absolutely lovely. Blona, thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, Sarah, bring the
Also, you
glasses
can make it a little bit more casual with a pair of trainers if you wanted to and a denim jacket, so you are going to be able to change it around. Sarah is back with us now and no glasses with this look.
The sunglasses have been put away safely.
Yeah, safely away. Gorgeous look here with this suit. It's definitely not a parasuit for the office. It is a dressy parasuit that you're going to be able to wear to a dinner or a night out. With the blazer, it's $199. We're going to see lots of this block gold colour coming through for spring, summer, and then
beautiful suit.
Yeah, it is, and you can see the attention to detail in the design, the tailoring of it, faux pocket detail. I love that it's a little bit of a long line blazer as well, because you're going to get that little bit extra coverage with it. Then with the trousers, they're high-waisted, trousers pockets there to them as well, but a really great fit and flair to these at €100 for those trousers there.
And you are going to then mix and match everything with those, because that's like gorgeous, the light pair of jeans.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue jeans,
Throw it with blue jeans, logo tee underneath the blazer.
Just a
also
little,
with the trousers, you could go with
for this, you've just put a little plain top underneath.
Yes, we've just gone with a simple plain top underneath it. I think going with a print, it's going to be too fussy because it is such a strong colour as well with that. So we've just gone with the plain, and then we finished it off with a little simple necklace there. But as you say, Maren, mix and match this. The trousers with a blouse or even with knitwear kind of half tucked in would look great. And they're all available at Lucan Shopping Centre right now.
I'm loving Sarah's own shoes for each of her looks this morning. Very good. My God, you must have some collection of shoes.
and enough sunglasses to go with them now.
There you go.
The 3-in-1. I mean, I wasn't expecting it, Rob. I'm going to be honest.
You're going to have a look now, will you?
I will, yeah. I will.
Rob, thank you so much for that.
Thanks a million. Now, coming up next, we're dissecting all the latest Love Island drama. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, as one couple calls it quits and another rekindles their lovely romance, a new arrival has the lads' head spinning.
They certainly have. Now, it's been an eventful few days in the Love Island villa. Ali Ryan joins us now to break it down. But before we chat to Ali, let's take a look at all the latest drama.
You are what I'm looking for. Yeah. You are what I'm looking for. You have got all my energy.
You literally you say one thing and then you say another.
I am not getting involved in a trio thing. I'm not second best. I'm first.
I'm not making. You're not second best to me. You are best to me.
Snog the two islanders that you think are attracted to you.
I just wish, things had obviously gone different from a lot of people's parts. Yeah, we've both just been kind of clashing heads. There's days when you want it to work where maybe I'm confused, and then I want it to work, and then you're confused.
Yeah.
And it just shouldn't be like that.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Boy, no, shush. Boys, grab a drink and head to the sun deck to meet Sammy.
Oh, Sammy. I mean, I thought there was drama in the golf, but the Love Island villa.
I can't handle the golf drama now. We need to chat about that separately.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is definitely getting more dramatic, but very surprising, as you can see there. Zara was very calm during their breakup chat. Now,
This is Tom and Zara.
It's Tom and Zara. So she's been crying the whole time. She's been getting very irritated. There's a lot of people online saying that she's been a bit mad in her responses. She's been kind of shouting at Tom, giving out. Very calm there. So I'd say she had a chat with the psychology team, maybe. There's been a few the last couple of years where you see breakups, they're very calm. So it's definitely been talked through, because she was mad after him. Like, she was obsessed with him nearly. Like, they were together about 2 days and she was like, he's my man. And there
So why have they broken up? What's happened?
So basically there was the balloon game, which if you haven't seen it, is out of context, probably sounds confusing. But basically there's a daring game where we won't go into how it's played, it's too early, but that caused lots of problems. There's always questions in it. So one of the questions was to Tom, what 3 girls would make the perfect girlfriend? So it was body, personality and face. And for face he chose Olivia, who's obviously his ex in there. But what would you choose? Which is the best one for the girl you're currently seeing? If he had said body for Olivia, would she not have been annoyed? But she particularly was like, the face is the most important.
What are the 3 options?
Face, personality and body.
Oh, you gotta go person. Did you go, what? So which one did he pick?
He went for Zara for the body, Zara for the body, personality was his friend, but face, he said Olivia. And it was just, so she cried afterwards. She was really upset about it. And she was like, I'm not being mugged off. And then the next day had a chat with him about it. And he was annoyed that she got annoyed as well. So I think they were just both like,
what would you want?
Working.
Personality.
Personality? What do you reckon, Ali?
I think face too. That's what I mean. You wake up to the face.
You've been quiet over there, Myrren. I like
you fall in love with
personality
someone's
now.
eyes, you know what I mean? So I get it. So then they broke up, but Tom has been...
Now, Tom, can I just say something about Tom? If we have, I think we have some VT of it there, or some clips. He should learn how to put sun factor on him. He's burnt. I literally thought, like, I thought the producers would be actually a bit more like, look at his face. He's literally, this is him here. But I mean, he's the one. He's the Romeo now of the villa.
He's honestly dated more people in the last 24 hours than I've dated in the last year. I'm like, how is this happening every single time?
You've been very busy, to be fair.
I've been too busy. But basically, he basically broke up with Zara and it was like, right, now it's time for him and Liv. So him and Olivia were together at the start. Everyone wants them together. Olivia wants him. He was like, yeah, now's our time. Literally.
And they had the chats last night where they both said, yes, we should try it.
Yeah.
We're very attracted to each other. We should try it.
The one
what does he go and do?
Kisses someone 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
And the scene was shot so brilliantly because he's upstairs snogging her and then in the same shot she's downstairs underneath telling the girls, finally it's time. The one lesson I've learned from Love Island is don't believe men when they tell you they're ready to go steady because every 2 seconds the head's gone. And speaking of turning heads,
Ali, are you only learning this now?
Only learning it now. No, I've learned it the hard way, trust me. But I see it extra now. But like, see, it is a show.
Yeah.
But Ron is the same. So Ron had this huge chat with Lana. About 4 times now he's nearly had tests and had his head turned and he was like, now that's it. Soon as Sammy walked in, the new bombshell, he was like, she's my exact type on paper.
So we saw Sammy walking in there. All the guys obviously look very excited when there's a new girl coming in.
Yeah.
But do you think he'll test all of them? I mean, who do you think is pretty solid at the moment?
I think Shaq and Tanya are the most solid. A lot of people would have thought Tanyelle and Kai, but now Kai was even a bit like, oh, she's very good looking. And there was a clip on After Sun last night, and he was saying, I think like she's too scared to come over to me because of Tanyelle. So he's ready to chat to her as well.
Let's just see. We have a little clip of Sammy arriving or Sammy in the villa because they literally it was all excitement. Look at this. I love the way the slow-mo, the shots, and here she is. Now, she is a beautiful-looking girl.
Yeah, she is
absolutely
stunning. She did a little clip on After Sun last night, and she said it took so long to do those shots. They shoot that for 2 hours, the poor girl, trying to walk in and slow.
You got to get the right shot, the right angle.
No, I think surprisingly so, all the guys were like, and she's very girl next door. She's stunning. She's got good banter. I think she's going to cause a lot of trouble. And can we keep in mind, Casa Amor hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
And the amount of tests going on. So I think she's going to really shake it up. I think Lana and Ron, my predictions, they're going to have to break up. She can't go through it again. He's going to definitely try to get to know her.
Hold on, so Lana and Ron, what's happened to
They're in the proper couple now, but he's kind of had his head turned a few times. But the other day, he finally was like, you know what, it's you, I'm going to pick you. And then when she came in, he was like, actually, she's perfect.
And who do you is there anybody single? Or has she had to couple up with somebody else?
Spencer and God love Aaron, the Aussie. I mean, he's barely on the show at all.
Was he still on it?
Still on it, still there.
What about the farmer?
Single. Will is with Jessie. So actually the balloon game caused a bit of trouble with them as well. But see, it's so hard because it's a game. They have to do silly things. And in it, he had to do a little task with Ellie and he looked very excited to be doing it with her. That was their argument then. She was like, you looked a bit too excited. And Will said, well, I'm a showman. I like being centre of attention. That's the way I am. So I don't know how that would work on the outside world because he's very out there.
But definitely Sammy is going to shake things up because when she went and chatted to them and said, she asked all of them, so are you open to, and they all went, well, I'm with her, but look, it's early days.
I just love when you're talking to the girls, they're in their eyes, they're like, it's just you. And then literally a sausage can walk through and they're like, you know what, actually, I'm open. It's like, which one is it? I know it's a game and I know the producers are definitely always saying to the lads, you're here to get tested. And like Olivia Bowen and Alex Bowen were on After Sun. They're the first Love Island couple to get married. And they were saying the tests are actually important because when you get to the real world after Love Island, there's people flinging themselves at you all the time.
Yeah.
So they were like, in a way, even though it's hard, you do need to see, are they going to be able to, you know, avoid temptation? Ron clearly can't. Clearly can't. Every day his head's turning.
So whenever I saw on Twitter Ekin Sue was trending last night, who was that in relation to?
So Ellie's the one who snuck a kiss with Tom. So in fairness, Tom had the chat with Olivia and Ellie called called him up to the terrace.
Oh, so she called him up as
Yeah,
well?
when you go to the terrace, you're getting a snog or you're being broken
She
up
asked,
with.
"Can I have a word with you?" And this is where the shot was.
Did she initiate it?
Not
They kinda
really.
both did.
Here they are. So, listen, Tom
He had
is
his hand
here.
out ready to
Tom
grab
was
her
there.
chin.
Tom is
talking
there.
to-
He's just told Liv downstairs that they
Finally
are
give it a go.
attracted,
Yeah.
and finally they're going to make a go of it. Ellie asks them to go up, and they're up here, and then they snog.
I know. Now, I think it's a good move on Ellie's part because there hasn't been a recoupling for a couple of days. So there's definitely about to be one. So she hadn't did that kiss. I do think he would have immediately picked Olivia. So I think if there's a recoupling, there's going to be a drama now. Is it going to be Ellie? Is it going to be Olivia? Because if it's not Ellie, she could be going home. So I think she's realising I was the new shiny thing. I was the bombshell. Now Sammy's here 2 seconds later. So she has to up her game. They need to get snogging.
Have we seen Maya Jama yet? Has she been there much?
Yes, she's there. She's looking great.
Okay,
she hasn't really been in the villa much. She's been on After Sun looking amazing. But last night on the After Sun show, she got a text being like, pack your bags, it's time to go back to South Africa. So I definitely think there's something dramatic about to happen. And we're only, is it 2 weeks into the show? Normally right bang in the middle is when we get Casa Amor. So Casa Amor is just under 2 weeks away.
Another 2 weeks away.
So there's more drama. I'd say there's more bombshells. Whenever there's a quiet day in there this season, they're throwing someone in. I'd say some new guys are going to come because the girls need to get their head turned now. It's all the men. So I want to see some nice guys coming in.
As long as Sammy stays in, I'm happy enough.
And Maya is still hosting. Yeah.
Ali, thanks so much. And of course, you can catch Love Island at 9 p.m. tonight on Virgin Media 2.
Thank you. Yeah, we're in what is on the way tomorrow.
Personality. Isn't that right, boys? Yeah.
You're right.
All about the personality, these two over here.
Would you go personality? Face?
I have
So you have
gone.
the option face, personality or body. Which would you want
When
to
you
be
know
picked
I'm
for?
personality.
Of course.
We
you
know
are.
I'm personality on
We
tomorrow.
all go for personality.
On tomorrow's show, we'll be chatting to Motherland star Jackie Clune, plus comedian Sean Burke will be stopping by, and the Skin Nerd is back to answer more of your beauty questions. We've also got usual food,
News, sport and
sport
weather.
and
And we're
weather.
going to have a quiz. Which would you pick? We're going to go round through this. Face, body or personality.
But look, there's no point in having a lovely face and lovely body if you're boring and you've no personality. Really, no.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes down to that. Listen, thanks all. That's all we've got time for today.
Have a great day.
See you in the
See you
morning.
tomorrow.
Bye.